All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Vaughan Liddicoat. How are you? So good to see you. I'm praying to the audio gods that you can hear this and I'm not miming to myself. Welcome to the Goal Accelerator online program. We're going to give you a very quick, fast, high-intensity training to help you with your goals and to rapid fire and create the future you want right now. I can't wait to share this with you, so I'm going to wait a few moments for you to get a pen and a paper, a glass of water, and to turn off all distractions. And most importantly, I'm going to check to see if this thing is actually streaming right now to you as I'm testing some new technology, which can always be a little bit of fun. So here we go. I can see it. It might echo for a minute. Yeah, what up, Kim? How are you? All right. So I'm assuming that the audio is good. And you'll be able to give me a little thumbs up and a like to let me know if there's any issues. And if there are any problems and there does become a bit more of an issue, I will certainly redo this for you. So just let me know as we go through this because I can't really get feedback as we go. But in the question box or the comment section below, as we go through this, if you do have any specific questions that come to mind, pop them in there and then we'll address them in the next meetup or the next training where we can actually help you to accelerate the goals that you want. Because you know, goal setting is actually a very logical process, but goal achievement is an illogical process. And this second half is what many people don't actually refer to. So a few years ago, I learned about the goal setting process, and as this sort of came around and came to be, well, it was one of those things for me that I had to test, right? Because there's lots of information out there. There's lots of people that talk about goals, and to be honest, it's a pretty overdone subject. A lot of people refer to it, they mention it a lot, they talk about it, but not many people actually understand the process. And until you've really been through it, it's actually very hard to explain because you see, the strategies are not what got you to achieve the goal. This is one of the biggest learning points I want you to have in the front of your mind right now. The how isn't what we're talking about today. That's the strategy, that's the tactics. But you see, that's what most successful people talk about. They actually look back on their life and say, I did this, I networked here, I met that person, I got this loan, I borrowed this amount of money, I took this time off, I worked this much, I read these books, I met that person, I traveled here. You get the point. But that's not what actually did it. You see, there's a shift in the thinking. And a good example of this is people who run a business. You see, a lot of people who run a business do it for maybe one reason, and that is to work for themselves above all else. But the real thing is, if you go into a business and you have an employee mindset, the biggest problem is that the business will cripple you because you need a different type of thinking. You need to think like a business owner, a visionary, an entrepreneur, not just a technician, the person who turns up and does the work. And that's why so many people fail in business. That's why it's an 80 to 90% failure rate in the actual area of business itself. And that statistic can be proven in Australia, can be proven in America. I just want to give a quick shout out to anyone watching this. It's great to have you here. These Facebook Lives are a lot of fun. They're a little bit of a challenge sometimes to set up, but I really honor you for coming and taking your time out now and for investing some time into your own future, because if you don't do it, you know, who else is going to? But I ask you at this moment in time, please, if you're watching this on your phone, that's cool. Just shut off your browsers if you have the internet nearby, shut the door, go into your car, find some space for you, get a pen and paper, because there's going to be a lot of ideas that flow to you as we go through this. I'm going to help expand the way you're looking at life and the way you're thinking about things right now. So here's the thing. We're about to launch right into this. There's going to be 6 parts in total to this. And the program, the Goal Accelerator, was actually started a few years ago, and it's a program that I give to people if they buy some high-end coaching and they're working with me one-on-one for an extended period of time. It's something that we talk about, Nathan and I will talk about it in 2-on-1 coaching sessions, little bits and pieces. But essentially, setting the goal is one thing. That's the logical process. Achieving the goal is a whole different side of things. So we have to make a shift in what we call the emotional heart, the paradigm, or the subconscious conditioning. When the change happens there, that's when the goals can be realized. So a lot of this exercise is going to be geared towards the logical side of things, what you actually want, but then you've got to realize that the training you're doing right now is just the tipping point to actually changing that emotional conditioning. Now, sometimes when you first hear these types of ideas or these concepts, they sound foreign. But I say to you, do not let that stop you. Just make sure that you keep persevering, that you keep persisting, keep asking questions, keep challenging yourself and demand more of yourself to reach that next level in your life, because if you're not doing that, you really are going backwards. So when we're looking at creating goals, we have to remember the whole process of goal achievement is really geared towards one factor, and that's growth. We must set goals understanding that it's the growth that matters at the end of the day, not the actual attainment of the end result. Even though that's the awesome thing, like everybody's after maybe the new car or the house or the new position, the increased quality of life, the health, the wealth, and whatever goes around sort of the goals that people set. Those are the most sort of typical ones. But that's not really the answer. You see, you can get there and be very unhappy. And this happens to a lot of people. You know, think of celebrities. They hit superstardom. They get pretty much what every actor could ever want, leading roles, brand endorsements. They start to launch products to the world. And guess what happens? Well, they become some of the most depressed and what I would classify as the most poor mentality stricken of us all. Because they don't what happened was they hit the achievement, but they didn't understand how to grow into the person they needed to be for this to happen. So if we think of Goethe, who was a 17th century German philosopher who really, his thinking actually shaped most of the democratic world, most of the way that we think in the Western world is thanks to this man. He was a German philosopher, writer. I mean, you can't really classify what this guy did, but his work over his entire lifetime was just astounding. And he really coined this idea of you must be before you can do, before you can have. Have you heard of that before? Think about it. You must be before you can do, before you can have. Now, most people are trying to have the goal. They're trying to have the thing. They're trying to do the work, but they never become it. And that's what we want to make sure in our own heart, that we be the person. And we must understand the law. We've got to be the person first before we can actually really do the work that counts to make us have what we want. So goals are for growth. And that's really the philosophy of what this whole program's geared around, is the being, doing, the having side of things. Now we're going to look at the first sort of principle of goal acceleration, if you will. Because you might be sitting there right now in your own life challenged because you're like, you know what? I keep writing goals down, but I haven't achieved them, so now I feel bad. Or I keep, trying to figure out what my goal is by writing all these goals all the time, but I don't know where I'm going. And that's okay, because there's an exercise at the very end of this I'm going to get you to do that's going to be very free thinking, and it's going to open up your mind to a lot of possibilities and help you to decide on the target that you want to go for. So if we look at the principle number one, we're going to look at this. There are three types of goals that people generally set. We'll classify these as C, B, and A type goals. The C goals is that we know how to get them. So most people are running around going, I'm going to set a goal provided I know how to get it. Okay, does this sound familiar? Is this something you're doing? You're like, I'll hit that next financial position because I know if I do X, Y, and Z, that's where I'll go, right? And then so scared to take a leap to go for anything more because what if they fail, right? And in our own lives, we have to realize that failing is actually nature's teacher. Failing's a prerequisite to success. You have to be willing to fail, and you have to be willing to go through the pain of growth to get to where you want. It's a natural law. It's part of how nature works in its perfect entirety. But here's the thing, we screw it up because we're setting goals based upon what we know we can get. Definitely, if I do this amount of work, if I meet this right person, if things just work out, well then, I'll be able to hit this level. Unfortunately, you are completely violating nature's principles. You can't do that. And I know it might be nice for you and secure, and you might have a certainty if you set goals like that, but it doesn't work that way. And in your own life, if you only examine where you are today, you'll find that you're a natural goal achiever anyway, and you've been hitting goals all along the way. The thing is, when you really go for the A-type goal, well, that's where the challenges come in because of our virus code and our conditioning, our mindset, the paradigms we've inherited, the thinking we've inherited from our environment, our friends, and our family. So what ends up happening is people go, well, okay, I get this, and I'm not going to set goals that I know how to achieve. What I'm going to do, though, I'm going to game the system. I'm going to go after what I think I can get. My friend, this is a little different, right? So it's the C-type goals is knowing how we're going to get it. The next type is that thinking that I can get this if I do the right thing. So if you think you can get it, then I'll set the goal. Now here's the thing. Thinking you can get it is just as bad as if you know how to get it. right? Because look, if I think I do the right things, this is what I'll do. I'm going to challenge myself to go that little bit further. Rather than making another $10,000 or $20,000 a year, because I know if I work harder, I can do that. Maybe I think if I do the right things, I'll get 200,000 more in income a year. Well, that sounds nice. Oh man, but I don't think I could do that. I don't know, that's really challenging. And the problem with that is we remain stagnant. B-type goals they don't have much power in them. They're better than the C-type goals, but they're still not very motivating. They're still reliant on a contingency plan for yourself that, if it all works out, I'll get it. What we really want, and this is the hardest part of it all, it's going to sound very simple. This is really where people get stuck, and that's the A-type goal. It's what you truly want. Now, what you truly want, the answer to that, you have to actually unravel, unpackage, dishevel past experience, failures that you've had before, the risk of ridicule, the criticism of others, the fear of poverty, the fear of losing again. This is the requirement if you're going to set a truly empowering goal and one that burns a hole in your soul that you go, man, I just can't sleep. I want this so bad, right? It's what you want, not what you think you can get, what you want. Very different. We got to the moon because we wanted it, not because we thought if we built a spaceship we could do it, right? Think about it like this. Elon Musk, one of the greatest entrepreneurs that's currently alive, really shaping the world. He has a company called SpaceX and Tesla. So he has some enormous goals, right? By 2020, he wants to put people on Mars. I almost said the moon. Now think about how big that is. He doesn't want to just put them there. He wants to colonize Mars in 3 more years from now, right? That's enormous. He doesn't know how that's going to happen. That is not a C-type goal. It's not a B-type goal. This guy's going for it. Now, in our own life, we don't have to go and colonize a planet. What we've got to realize is that draw a line in the sand. On a piece of paper in front of you, write a line out, a horizontal line, and directly in the middle, put an asterisk or a star, and realize that this is the current moment in time for every human in the world. The present. It's all we ever get, and it's all we're ever promised. We don't know if tomorrow's here, and we certainly know yesterday's gone. But all you get is the present. I suppose that's why they call it a gift. So here's what we have to understand about the present. Our present life at any station is geared up of nothing more than the past experiences we've been through. And so when we're trying to set a goal about what we truly want, the problem is that your past experience is putting a blinder on the future. And so what ends up happening is you start to project into the future with like a blueprint or a laser into the future going, let's talk about a projector. So it's like a mind projector. You're going forward into the future and thinking, okay, well, if I do all the right things, then I'll get where I want to go. Now, when you set a goal, an A-type goal, it's what you want, it actually has no past experience attached to it. What it does have attached to it, though, is it linked to your purpose and is it linked to your calling in life, the thing that you're here to do? That's the question you should be asking yourself. What do you want and how is it linked into where you're going with your life, what you actually want to do? Now, the challenge, as I said before, with that answer is not only is it wrapped up in past experience, but it's also going to challenge you in your present moment because you may not have the resources, you may not know the people you need to talk to, you may not even have the skills. You're going to have something called a belief system that's going to intertwine around your thinking, that's going to challenge you and say, you're too old, you're too young, who are you to set that type of goal? You can't do it. Look at what you've done before. What are your friends going to think? What are your family going to think? Are you getting as bored as I am? That's the bullshit excuses though, right? That's what ends up happening though. When we set an A-type goal, what do I want? Because you are going to be confronted a little bit on your own self as to do you really want it and are you prepared to do what it takes to make it happen? Now here's something I'm going to give you a beautiful truth. I'm going to give this for you to understand because it's something that I learned about myself that's also true. And if it's true for me, it's true for you. And if I can learn it, you can learn it. You have everything it takes to get what you want. The past experiences you've been through, they're only there as stepping stones and they're preparing you for the person you need to be to step out and do the things you need to do. So when we look at our life and go, do I really want this? The answer is either yes or no for you. But then when you ask yourself, am I talented enough to make it happen? The answer is absolutely yes. The thing is you just got to say, is it what I truly want? And that is different to what I think I can get. And that's what this program is geared around. So when you sit down and you're penning out, do I really want this? Don't be afraid, because that brings us to principle number 2, which is the starting point. So we know the 3 categories. Starting point is this. There's something called the paradigm phenomena. And the paradigm phenomena is what I was referring to as past experiences, but it's also what makes up you and I. Have you ever given any thought to why we do what we do? It's a question that I ask myself daily. I examine my own behavior and my own habits. I watch and study the world around me, and I read good books, and I start to get more awareness of who I am, and the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. And I'm forever asking this question, like, why do we do what we do? You see, here's the thing. Why do we do what we do and then we still don't do it? Like, we don't do the thing we want to do, right? Like it's this constant thing. You ask a kid, you know, why did you do that? And they say what? Because. Now, they don't know why they did or didn't do the thing. They just, well, just because. It's a widely accepted excuse, right? It's because of our paradigm. Our paradigm is a multitude of habits, and they're other people's habits. How crazy is that? So the way that you and I operate, most of the time, up to 50% of our life is run automatically, meaning we don't give conscious thought to it. It's just a habit. So the way we tie our shoes, drive a car, even conversations we have, the way we answer, the way we speak, the way we do our hair, the way we brush our teeth, everything is automated. We don't have to give any thought to that. That is called an unconscious pattern or behavior. Thank God, because we wouldn't want to have to think about everything. I wouldn't want to have to think about blinking or my heart beating. But why would we run our life where it counts like that? Why would we walk into relationships automatically? Why would we treat our health automatically? Why would we treat our income or grow our businesses on autopilot? That's crazy, right? But that's what we've got to train, is the new habit. So the paradigm is a group of habits strung together that form conditioning, which is behavior, how we act. Now, if you examine your life, you'll know that there are areas that you don't like, right? You're acting a certain way and you don't like it. The reason is because you're hardwired. The paradigm is wired to do that. You know, in our family, the drinking paradigm is huge. You know, like we had gamblers, alcoholics, like I'm pretty sure they were just destitute. You know, like back in the day in the 18th century, they did all sorts of stupid stuff in my family. That's been passed down, right? In your family, you're gonna have people that are, you know, maybe they're abusers, maybe they're neglectors. There's all these really negative traits. But then there's also these really beautiful ones, like loving traits that have been passed down. See, that's genetic paradigms or genetic conditioning. Only 5 to 7% of our makeup is that. The rest is environmental. So that's why the sum total of who you hang around is the most important thing. The people you associate with, who you talk to, what you read, all your influences in life fuel your paradigm. So if you have a paradigm that's geared towards running a job, a 9-to-5 job for 20 years, when you got to step out and run your own business, this is where the problem is, because the hardwired paradigm is there, turning up 9 to 5, getting paycheck to paycheck, living probably one paycheck at a time, not planning for the future, maybe in debt. And then a business is a totally different operating mechanism. You can't operate the same way, and that's where the breakdown is for most people. They don't adjust the thinking and the paradigm. So our change is actually there. So once you get the goal, what you want, that's actually your motivating force. What you have to change is the way you operate, the modus operandi, the operating system of you. Now, the good news is you don't have to change a lot of this. There's only a couple of tweaks you can make, and bang, your results can change like night and day. Right? This is how in my own life I went from not liking myself as a teenager, being depressed, not being very happy with myself. I think I had a good attitude towards life. Like, my parents were amazing. They gave me beautiful belief systems, but here's the thing. I didn't really like me. And so I didn't really believe when people said nice things about me. And so when I was working as a dishwasher in a restaurant, I was like, you know what, there's got to be something more in life. And I started learning about goals. So I was like, I'm going to set myself a huge goal. I want to become a professional dancer, travel the world. I want to make money off the things I love to do. I want to inspire people and teach them about goals. I want to help people live a bigger life. That's a big calling for me. But I had no idea how to do it. I was earning like $10 an hour. And then my first paying job was about 18 grand a year. You know, like if we don't make that at least a week in our business, in one of my businesses, my God, we're struggling, right? So the thing is, what I want you to understand is that you can turn your income and you can double it. You can make it a monthly income. You can grow it. You can exponentially change your life, right? But here's the thing. The goal is only step one. Then you've got to grow and be the person, right? Remember, what did we say earlier? You have to be, do, and have. So the goal is your motivating force. It's way out of anything you've done in the past, because therefore you've got the growth potential, but you've also got the excitement of, my God, what if that actually happened? Then you have to be the person now in the present, because that's all we've got, to actually make that occur. And so we don't want to get it backwards. We don't want to say, well, when I get the income, when I achieve the goal, then I'll become the person. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. We must be first before we can do and have, right? So the next thing about this, if we want to change our life, if we're going to change the direction of where we're going, if we really want to make a dent, here is the key. And I've asked this question to thousands of people. I've read it in all sorts of articles. This is it. Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, Jim Rohn, any of the big wigs in personal development that teach how to change your life and transform things, they all agree on this. It is decision. Now, decisions are sometimes very difficult to make because of the paradigm. Because we're wondering, well, again, we're looking at that CB type goal where it's like, well, if I know how to get it, if I think I can get it, then I'll decide to do it. Well, unfortunately, if you live that way, you're screwed. And there's no other nice way to say it. If you let the decision get controlled by your paradigm, you're screwed. Because we have to make the decisions about what we want, regardless if we know we can even do it, regardless if it's so big, it's so risky, it's so freaky, but man, if that happened, my life would change. Even with all the unknowns, we still have to make the decision. Now, we need a certain type of decision, though, you see, because there's different layers of decisions. Decisions are actually can be quite a complex subject, but we just need to understand one thing. A decision simply is a commitment to act regardless. And that's all you do. You act regardless, and you have to reaffirm it daily. We're not looking for ambivalent decisions, which is going back and forth, right? Ambivalence is, well, in my opinion, you can't be ambivalent because that's deciding not to do a thing. You're just doing it unconsciously. What we got to understand and what we're going to get straight is that we make a decision based on what we want. We then change the way we think because of that decision. And when that happens, you start to increase the frequency of the way you think, meaning you're on a higher plane of thinking. So let me digress for a quick second about the way our brains work. Our brains and everything in the world is energy. It sets off a frequency, meaning that there are different levels of frequency. And we only attract what we're in harmony with by way of what we think and by way of our vibration we send off. And we're in control of this. So it's like you're a TV station. Whatever your favorite TV station is, or Netflix or whatever, operates the same way. There's a certain frequency that we tune into and we pick it up. Now, so when we set up a decision, when we make a committed decision, not a flippant decision, not one I'll make it tomorrow, like my life has to change now, today. I'm going to do something different. I have to change. When we say I'm done and we make that decision, do you know what you do? You set up a different frequency of thought. What do? You start to attract the things you need to bring you towards the goal you just decided on. Now, this happens every time, and I guarantee you, look at your own life. When you sold your house, or when you had to put a home on the market, or maybe when you bought a car, did you start to notice it everywhere? Well, what that's called is the recency effect. Our brain starts to see the thing that is most recent, essentially. But what actually happened is that you set up a frequency of thought and you started looking for it. Now, if you decide to grow your income and you only decide to grow it by 20 grand, well, that's your decision. But one, it's not motivating. Two, you're probably going to change the decision because it's not motivating enough. Three, you only set up your frequency of thought a little bit higher, so you're not really going to do anything because you already know how to do it. Just work a bit more, right? Do a little bit more, better in your business, and get a couple more clients, you'll make a bit more. What we need is a more empowering idea. We need something that we love, that we go, my God, I just got that. My God, that would be amazing. You need something that's out of that comfort zone, all right? This is so important to understand because when you go, that's what I want, and you make that decision, it will change your life in an instant. Now, here's the thing. Then we need to set up a plan. We need to set up a way of operating and a way to protect our thinking against the negative influences of the world so that we can keep going confidently, calmly, and in the direction of our dreams. And this is exactly where we can meet with success, unexpected and common hours. Now, if you get those first two principles, that's the most exciting part, in my opinion. Let me know how you're feeling about this right now, okay? Just to recap, we're setting goals we want. We're understanding that we're going to make decisions based upon what we want. not what we think we can get. And now we can go into principle number 3, which is the self-image. Now, the self-image is a part of positive psychology that really started by a guy named Maxwell Maltz. He wrote a book I think it was in the 60s, called Psycho-Cybernetics. And he was a plastic surgeon. He noticed a lot of people would come into his surgery and they would alter their physical appearance. And he always interviewed them beforehand, and he found out that the reason they did that is because if they got the change, they would then feel happier about themselves. But he also noticed that a large portion of them kept coming back to get the work done. Do you know why? It's because the change didn't happen for them, right? So they felt worse at the end, and they thought the next surgery would make them feel better. What he realized very quickly was when he looked at a European, I think it was a Dutch fencing team, that they would have scars of honor on their face, and they would never get them fixed because the cut down their face was actually a pride mark to them. And if you didn't have one, you actually didn't belong as part of the tribe. Now, what's interesting about that, he goes, well, what's the difference between the person where I am who would die, like if they had that in their face, they would be hiding in a basement, and these people. And he realized that there was a self-image problem. And so when I look at what Goethe said about being, doing, and having, when he talks about being the person, we are talking about the self-image. So I want you to think about this concept for a moment. You are a mirror to the world. How you walk, how you talk, how you present yourself, you hide nothing to an aware person. Everything you do is a result, and that result is so clear for people to see. You don't hide anything. So if we are externally trying to portray a certain way, but internally we don't feel that, there is a disconnect, and we need to bring that together to feel congruent in ourselves, but also to be in track with where we want to go. But that internal conflict and dialogue, you don't hide to an aware person. You might to other people, but you send that off. Think of it like this. When your lover, friend, or someone's come home, or you met a work colleague, and you say, how are you? And they go, I'm fine. You know they're not fine. Now, their tone might have said it, but even if they say, yeah, I'm good, but you feel something's off, that's because that's the underlying resonance or vibration they're giving off from the way they feel. And that's what you're picking up. You're not hearing what they're saying, you're feeling it. And so we don't hide any of this. So we're a mirror to the world. So what we've got to do is understand that our self-image is so important to get right. That congruency, really starting to see ourselves with our mind, our imagineering capabilities, what we actually want, and being that person today, now. This is one of the reasons I dress differently. I used to be in a heavy metal band. I coached a snowboard team, right? That'll give you the sort of idea of the lifestyle. I was a heavy surfer. I partied a lot. I used to organize hip-hop parties, right? Like, that was my self-image. I was like, that was success and cool to me, right? Then I started getting all dressed up. I started getting tailored suits because I wanted to be different. I wanted to think differently. I wanted to be I wanted bigger ideas. I wanted to start attracting heavy hitters and being around people who were successful. And that's what they wore. So I was like, let's do that. But I'll do it in my own way. That is a self-image. So there's two types of self-images we have. Success images or failure images. And you cannot fool these. So the success image is how you see yourself in relation to the world. So a quick question is, if something goes wrong, if you fail at a task, meaning you went out to do the activity and then it didn't work out, in your mind, do you see yourself as a failure and take it personally, like I'm the reject here? It's my fault, I'm stupid, and you beat yourself up over it. If you do, you don't really see yourself as a success image. What happens to that type of person is you have a failure image, meaning that no matter what tactic you deploy, no matter what event you go to, what book you read, you might put the information to work to the letter, but guess what happens? You self-sabotage. And the reason you self-sabotage is because you truly don't accept the success. So this happens a lot. You know, I've seen successful doctors fall from grace. I've seen people who have a lot of money who have done things consciously correct, meaning they've got the strategy, they've done the work, and then they just keep screwing it up. And the reason is underneath all of that, deep down, failure image. They just don't believe it. Now, likewise, there are plenty of people that prove the point where they make a decision on a park bench after losing everything and being broke and in debt. And the day they make the decision, they're successful and they believe it. That's a success image. So I challenge you, it doesn't matter if you're on either side of those at the moment, awareness is the key. If we know more about if we know how to improve our life, it is by awareness and study and removing ignorance. And so for us to become more attuned to what we want, we've got to get the self-image component correctly. That means you might need to dress differently, walk differently, act a little different, start modeling. Tony Robbins talked about this a lot. You model behavior because that changes your self-image. And over time, you become a different person, which then brings me to the point is, are you willing to do that to get what you actually want? Because you're going to have to do that. Everything you want is on the outside of your comfort zone, but that's what the self-image is helping you to do, is help you to be the person needed to be for the goal to come into your life, because it's already here. That's the good news. Everything you want is here. You just need to tap into it from making a decision and setting up your self-image. The fourth principle, come with me now. You're doing awesome. Keep the pens going. Let me know how you're liking this. I want to see your comments or questions below. I'd love to answer these at the end. Fourth is setting the stage. So what we're going to do in this moment, now that we've realized, okay, I'm going to have to make some personal changes after I decide what I want. And I have to realize I have to be what I need to be to make these things happen. Now I need to clear the way. I need to get rid of any bad relationships. I need to get rid of the bad health if that's what I need to deal with. I need to get rid of the past failures, and I need to learn to forgive not only myself, but other people. Now, if you notice something here, we haven't even set goals yet. Why is that? It's because if we don't realize that everything that's happened in the past has been absolutely necessary for you to do what you need to do in the future, well, then that's where you're going to be stuck. Now, that's why forgiveness is so important. You have to get to a point where you learn to forgive yourself. Now, forgiveness means this. It means to release and let go of completely. It doesn't matter if you screwed up before. Welcome to the club and welcome to being human. What did we say earlier? Failure is nature's teacher. It's a requirement of success. It's not a nicety. You have to fail to get to where you want to go. We just don't want to chase it, right? We don't want to keep failing. We don't want to have a failure image. We want to realize that as we set up to try to do things, boom, we're not going to make it. We're going to try again. It's not going to work. Damn it, God, I've got to change my idea, change my tactic, try this again, set a new business up, go this way this time, but this time smarter. That's how it works. But you have to be able to forgive yourself. You have to have an ability to release the anger, release the hurt, the guilt, the sadness, any of the stuff that's been holding you back. If you don't, it will hold you back, okay? Now, here's the other thing. You have to forgive others. They only know what they know. And although some people, there are malicious people that have probably hurt you and wronged you in the past, you got to let it go. You have to get to a point where you won't let them keep doing it, but in your mind you let them go. Because forgiveness is for you. It's not the other person, right? When we forgive someone, it's not really for them, it's for you. You're letting the weight off your shoulders. Rather than them pushing you down, you can then have your shoulders free to hold other people up that deserve it, right? Forgiveness means to let go of completely and abandon. That's what it means. Doesn't mean you don't talk about it, doesn't mean you get amnesia, and it doesn't mean you put up with it. It means you let it go. And it's a mental move that only you can make, but you've got to do it. Because when you set the goals you really want, you have to have this inner capacity to be ready for that growth that's going to happen, that's going to test you. So once you set the stage and you've gone, you know what, I need to forgive myself, I also need to forgive these other people, and I need to start really examining my relationships and thinking about who am I spending my time with. Because we've got to love them where they're at, but some people are not ready to go on this journey with you. You have to be good with that. You have to also be willing to go it alone, but recognize you can't do it by yourself. Meaning that in the moment you set off into the future to go for what you want, you won't know how it's going to happen, but because you're thinking differently from the decision, you will attract the people you need when you need them. And vice versa. They'll attract you when they need you, but they may not be there for very long. You know, even just this year, I had a partnership completely fall through that looked like it was going to be amazing. And talking to my business partner about it, we're just like, you know, clearly we just needed each other for that little bit of time. We always ask ourselves, what's the lesson here? What do we learn from this to keep us going? Because otherwise most people would have been crushed by what happened, and it would have taken them out for months, if not just out of the game completely. We don't want that to happen. So the ability to ask questions of ourselves, what's the lesson, and be able to forgive the situation and the other people, absolutely paramount for setting the stage. Because principle 5 is now, where we create the goals. This is the most exciting part. So we're now getting into the strategy. Did you notice that the first 4 principles were mindset, psychology, You don't get that right, unfortunately, the goals aren't going to work for you. Like for most people, they say, well, goals don't work. Do you know why goals don't work? Because they're weak. There's no motivating power. That's why we've got to set goals for what we want, not what we think we can get. It's so important you hear that. It's going to scare the shit out of you. You're going to be fearful, but it's the game. That's how it works. Unfortunately, there isn't another way. And yeah, you could probably find other people that might mollycoddle you and bullshit you and say, you know what? Yeah, okay, just go a little bit further, just a little bit, that's okay. No, it's not okay, because you're wasting your time. Go for something big, because it really doesn't take that much more effort. Nature will provide. Think of it like this. It really doesn't take more from nature to grow a freaking oak tree than it does to grow a carrot, right? It's not like one is more demanding, one is just bigger. So I'd say go for what you want, because it doesn't actually take much more energy to set up a business than it does to do a 9 to 5, right? Like whatever you want in your life, it can be done for you. The energy is already there. What you want's already here. You just got to tap into it through a decision. So let's look at creating goals. Take out your pen and paper still. I want you to write this down. This is where we get into free thinking. You have to be able to get into what's called Imagineering, which is one of the reasons Walt Disney is so powerful, prolific, and successful, because this was his practice, Imagineering. I remember going to Disneyland, and he had all these beautiful quotes on the wall from Walt Disney. They're all inscribed in, you know, those bronze metal plates with gold writing. And there's just a big one that said Imagineering. And I was like, I love that word. That's amazing. Well, that's our power, our ability to think and imagine. So here we're going to get into a top 50 list. I want you now, free thinking, do not get confused on how you're going to do any of this. Write down what you want, all of it. Go, boom, 50 things. I don't care how big or small, just write it. Want to travel here, want to go there. Try to think of the areas of your health, your finance, your lifestyle, your career, your family, your spiritual life, your health, right? All of these things, your social, what you want to do for other people. Write it all down. You know, I want to set up a foundation. I'd like to go and volunteer more. I would like to release this much weight rather than lose weight. You want to release it. I would like to be wealthy. I would like to do this with my wealth. I want to travel here. I want to get up at 10 a.m. instead of 8, right? Like whatever it is, write it down. Top 50 list, and you got to pound this out. Now, you're not going to be able to finish this by the time I finish speaking, but this is the first step. Once you've penned out that 50, freaking self-high five. That's amazing, because when you get to that point, you have done something most people never do. I'm not even kidding. In fact, go out tomorrow at the coffee shop and ask 5 randoms about this. Have you set any goals? Do you have a top 50 list? Do you know where you're going? 12 months from now, do you have an idea about where you want to be? They'll say no. I do this. I ask people. They don't do it. Most people think it doesn't work because they've maybe written down something before and it never happened. But we're smarter than that. We have awareness, right? We know the deal. We know how it works up front. We have to be willing to pay the price. Most people don't know that. And they're setting goals for what they know how to get, right? And so we've got to ignore that advice. So your top 50 list is going to inspire you to figure out what your A1 goal is. What we're trying to do here is find the top goal, that what I call the goal pyramid, that when you hit the top goal, all the other ones fall under it. So although we're not going to, it's almost like stepping stones, but here's the problem, right? Most people set the first one as the goal. So it's like, okay, my number one goal is to run a multi-million-dollar global business, right? So that could be the A1 goal. But instead of setting that one, what they do is they say, well, I'm just going to start a business. No. You got to go for what you want, right? Not what you think you can get, because you sort of know how to do that even if you don't. You can go to the business register, put a business name up, and you got a business, and then put an ABN, you're done, right? So it's very easy to confuse and BS ourselves. The A1 goal is what we're trying to get. Now, here's the thing. We tap into something magical when we get past about the 20th thing we write down. It's quite amazing. So if you ever want a good idea for anything in your life, stuff you want to improve in your family life, or if you want to develop new business ideas or create a headline for a book or something, write down 50 names. You watch what happens. By the time you get to 20 or 30, although it's a sticking point for most people, you'll actually start to tap into something else, and then you'll get another flow of energy, and you'll be like, oh, you know what? Oh, boom, and all these things will come to you. And it's generally that last 20% where you actually find all the stuff you want. So that's what this free thinking exercise is really geared towards. Now, when you've got that top 50 list, this is what you do. Write this down. You're going to group them into C, B, and A group goals. What are the C group goals? These are the lower priority goals, meaning like they don't have a huge impact on your life, but they're also the low-hanging fruit. They're the things you can go after now, right? The things that tomorrow it's like, oh, I'll start with that, let's get going. The big two group goals are medium to high priority, right? These are like, okay, these are challenging. I don't quite know where I'm going with these. They're quite a stretch. The A-type goals, which you probably will only have, I would say, try to get only 5 or 6 in the main areas of your life. Those are the ones that are like, I've got no freaking clue, but I want them, okay? I really, really want them. And you know, these ideas can be different for everyone. So although I gear a lot towards business because I believe entrepreneurship in business is the future, it is what shapes countries, economies, it's the backbone, it provides opportunity, it's creative, it gives back. You know, the whole world of business is amazing in that sphere. So I talk a lot about that because it's a way of being able to connect to people and to grow. But for you, it may be totally different. And that's okay. The point is, you've got to go after what you want, not what you think you can get. Now, if you understand that, welcome to the 1% circle. It's a very small circle because most people do not live this way. Unfortunately, they miss out because this is how the most successful, happy people live. Now, remember, success is not how much money you earn, and it is not the size of the thing that you do. It's actually, if you can answer this one question, are you progressively realizing your goal on a daily basis? If you are successful. You very much are part of the 1% group. Now, the size of that goal is going to be relative to each person because of your purpose, right? So some people's purpose is very different to other people. Some are born to lead thousands of millions of people. They are not better or worse than the person who's made to maybe lead a school, right? Or to become a surgeon. Whatever your calling is, that's what we're looking to link towards. Now, your A1 goal should scare you and should excite you. It should be so far out of what you've done before, you really have no idea how to do it, but you only maybe have an idea of 1 or 2 steps. This is when you are on the right track. Now, this doesn't mean you might find your number 1 goal today. I encourage you to do this exercise as many times as you need to actually go into the direction of your dreams. Now, if you stuck with me this long, you are amazing. Thank you for giving me your time. I wanted to give you these 6 principles, and before we finish, I'll put a link in below. I'll see if there's some more training I can help you with to make this process speed up faster. But you asked one thing of me, that is, how do I achieve my goal quicker? Well, first of all, on the pyramid, A1 goal, you know what you want. Secondly, you've got to date it so you know when you want it by. Now, for that to come to you faster, here is the answer. You have to study and increase your awareness more. Now, what does study mean? There's no exam you have to pass. There's no grade you're going to get. Study increases awareness, meaning this episode has brought awareness to your life. It's increased the way you think about yourself. You've gotten ideas that go, is that why I do what I do? That's awareness. The more you understand how you operate, if you know thyself, you increase your chance of success at a greater rate, but you also shrink the time it takes for a goal to happen. And sometimes people unconsciously do this. This is why some people might come up with an idea and 6 months later they're a billionaire. And the reason for that is they just unconsciously tapped into their purpose. They unconsciously tapped into a market and an idea at the right time. That's nothing we should compare ourselves to. What we've got to understand and get straight is that your journey is unique, but principles are timeless. Principles and natural law don't go away, and your ignorance of them only hinders any progress that you're going to make. So we don't want to be ignorant, my friend. We want to be absolutely aware of what we're working with. We want to understand natural law, meaning like reciprocity, sowing and reaping, the law of gender, the law of opposites, relativity. We have to know how to use these. If this is something you'd like training on, let me know. We'll set up a session and we can work through some of those laws, because it's by awareness we shrink the time. That's how we do it. It's not by implementing more strategies. Sometimes doing more actually holds us back. Sometimes we need to do less, which might sound paradoxical, but that's exactly how it can work. This is Vaughan Liddicoat. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for giving me your all today. Leave me your questions, your comments, and your thoughts below. Please share this with anyone that you might find, and I look forward to seeing you again in some more training. Thank you very much, and have a great day. I'm now just going to disappear and turn this off.